about the cheat code. The cheat code. Now, what exactly are you talking about, Rachel? Well, I'm talking about the what makes you different and better cheat code. This is for those of you who are in business, experts, influencers, if you have a product or service, because I know some of you don't consider yourselves necessarily to be business owners or entrepreneurs, but if you're selling something, if you have a product or service, if you are looking to build a brand, it is more critical more than any time to stand out. You have to find a way to rise above all the noise in the marketplace, and you need to be able to answer the question, what makes you different? Why should I work with you? Why should I do business with you? Why should I trust you over someone else? Well, you need not just any old answer to that question. You need the right answer to that question. And you will find that in the what makes you different and better cheat code. And it is absolutely free. So I want to encourage you to grab that, which you can do so by going to www.bit.ly, that is bit.ly/different and better. bit.ly/different and better. And that will be in the show notes as well. So for those of you who are new, welcome. This is the podcast for those who want to get out of the way of their next best move and their next breakthrough. In particular, business owners, experts, influencers, disruptors. This is where you need to be. And we're going to be talking about something that, oh boy, I know in my own experience, it causes a number of folks in business a little, now y'all know that I'm sarcastic, just a little stress, a little concern from time to time. And that's pricing, how to price their products and services. And so I have a pricing expert. I just happen to have a pricing expert available to talk more about that. Hello, Janene.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, everyone.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's Friday evening here, so it's about 5 p.m. So it's getting close to quitting time.
Okay, so you guys, it may not be Friday when you hear this, and I, don't envy us because it just happens to be Friday. I love Fridays. Friday is my favorite day of the week. Some of you have heard me say that because, for one, I was born on a Friday. So, yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. But happy Friday.
Happy Friday, exactly.
So, Janene, I am curious, before we really jump in, let's jump in a little bit. This is something maybe you can help me with. And this is really serious. Now, I want you to know, I want you to be ready. I usually start off with the most serious question. Okay. So you being a pricing specialist, expert, consultant, I'm just wondering if you can help me develop a pitch for Godiva and see if I can get a year's worth of chocolate for like $100. Can you help me with that?
Well, that's kind of like the reverse of pricing.
Really?
So, I mean, in theory, it should be possible. It's really interesting you say that. I went to a training. I belonged to this program, and when they did the sales training, and one of the days they gave us an afternoon exercise, and everybody was given a paper clip. And after 2 hours, whoever could come back with something that they've traded that was of the highest value, they would win a prize. So people would go out and they'd trade for this and trade for that. And then they'd get, a pair of glasses, and then they'd go trade the glasses for something else, and so on and so forth. So in reality, you could probably finagle it and do it, right? By being creative, by helping people, because a pay-per-click may not be of value to you in this moment,
right?
But to somebody else, it could be of great value.
Okay.
Or there could be something they want to get rid of that's not of value to them, but that could be of value to you or someone else.
Okay, I'm thinking. You got me thinking. Okay, because I really need to
Right?
get a year. I'd love a lifetime supply, but I figured I'd start out with a year supply of
A
chocolate.
year supply. So yeah, I mean, and when it comes down to it, whether you're doing pricing or in this case you're doing, I don't know what we'd call the reverse of pricing, but we'll
Mm,
call it the reverse of pricing. It
okay.
all comes down to value in
Well,
the
this is
end,
true.
right?
This is true. Okay. Well, I told you this was a really important question, Janine. So I had to just get that out. Okay. All right. So tell us,
Yes.
how did you become, and for those of you who may not be familiar with Janine, she's also known as the pricing
Yeah.
lady. And I want you to share how that came to be,
Mm-hmm.
your journey to becoming the pricing lady.
Yes. Well, I actually started my career as an architectural engineer designing buildings, funnily enough, which
Mm-hmm.
is completely, one would think it's completely unrelated to what I do now. But what getting an education in that area helped me do was learn how to solve problems.
Mm.
And so I can solve all sorts
That's
of,
interesting. I want to stop you just a moment
yeah.
because that's pretty interesting what you said,
Hmm.
that being an engineer or architectural engineer
Hmm.
helped you in solving problems,
Hmm.
and that's serving you now. So
Hmm.
it's just a reminder, and I find it fascinating that often what we start out doing is not what we end up doing. And as you pointed out, sometimes they're not related at all. But then when you kind of peel back the layers, there's some commonality.
Yeah, of course there is. And I think, I mean, not to go right down the rabbit hole right now, but, when it comes to getting in your own way,
Mm.
a big part of that is mindset, right? So if I think,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I only have a structural engineering degree, that's not useful for anything else except for that, then
Mhm.
I'm putting myself in a very, very slim and tidy box
Right.
that doesn't give me much room to do anything else or grow. And a lot of times when we're getting in our own way, that's at least partially at the root, at the basis or foundation of what's
Yeah.
going on. So, but
Yeah.
for me, I feel like learning how to solve problems. Now, can I solve, like, if somebody needs open heart surgery? Well, I can help them, I could figure out how to find a heart surgeon.
Mhm.
That's about the extent of my
Absolutely.
problem solving skills in that context. But, it gives me, I look at things in a different way than other people do.
Mm. Okay.
And it suited me when I worked as an engineer, but it also suits me now in what I do because I look at problems in different ways and can look at them
Mhm.
from many different angles. So that's where I started my career, and I worked as an engineer for about 3.5 years and loved aspects of it, but decided it wasn't the right thing for me, that
Mm.
I wanted to do something that had a little bit more let's say, contact with other people, human
Yeah.
connection.
Right.
And funnily enough, I landed in a high voltage test and measurement equipment company, which probably didn't fit that bill. But the work that I was doing there was more on the product management side from a
Okay.
technical perspective. So product marketing, product management. And it was also the part of the business that I was focused in was the international side, which is what brought me from Connecticut, where I was living at the time, to Switzerland, where I'm still living now 20 years later.
Mm.
And it was at this company that one of the first things they did as a product manager was they hand you your portfolio, which includes a price list. And it just so happened the price list
Mm.
I received was 20 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness is right. And you'd be surprised to find out how many businesses are out there operating with price lists that are older than some of their employees. It's not
I mean,
uncommon.
but 20 years?
20 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So without having any background in pricing, without having any real commercial background, I knew something was wrong with that and took it upon myself to figure out, okay, we need a better solution. Because part of my job was getting offers out the door. And it was taking us, 5 to 7 days to get an offer out the door, which just wasn't acceptable. So I modularized my product line and restructured the pricing. And then we did that with the entire portfolio afterwards because it just made sense. And that was, I look back at that now. I didn't know it at the time, but that was really my first foray, you can say, into this area of pricing. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until after I left that company and the next job I had, I was the global pricing manager for a large multinational. And then I went and got a certification as a pricing professional. And yes, that does exist. And the rest is history, as they say. So I worked at a couple of corporate jobs, running the pricing programs internally, rolling out pricing programs, and helping the companies manage their pricing. And then in 2014, I went through a burnout and left the company in 2015 and started my own business in 2017. With the goal of helping small business owners. Nobody ever teaches us how to do pricing.
This is true,
right?
This is true. So I'm curious, and I knew this prior to this interview. You said you experienced a burnout, and it seems a number of people are kind of going through that now, and really over the last year and a half to 2 years or so with COVID and everything going on. When you left your last job, did you know what was the next step then?
Yine is what we say over here. That's yes and no. Ya and nine. Yine.
Still there. Okay.
So yine. So several years, so before I was in my last corporate job, I had actually written a business plan. So I was already thinking about, hey, I found this great thing, pricing. There's not many people who do it, and I can add an enormous amount of value, and I can actually show people the value I can bring, right? In numbers and figures. It's calculable. Not in every case, but in most cases. So I had something here which was pretty unique. And I was thinking, if I take it to another industry, does it still apply? Do the same rules work? How would I need to adjust? So I was already thinking about it, but I call it standing at the cliff of entrepreneurship, where you're like peeking over the edge. Dipping your toe over, kind of thing. I stood there for a very long time. And the burnout, you could say, in a way, was what led me to take that step in that direction finally. And when I was going through, say, the process of healing and reassessing what I wanted to do and how, I knew a few things. One, that I love helping people go through their aha moment or get to their aha moment.
Yeah.
So whether it was pricing or public speaking, I've done coaching in public speaking. I used to teach kids about math, science, and engineering, and seeing them go from, I'm a girl, this isn't for me, to holy cow, this, a 6-year-old, I love electricity. See, Mom, the light is on, the circuit is complete. The light is off, the circuit is broken. Whatever that transformation is, I love helping people get to that aha moment.
Gotcha.
I still felt that pricing was the best way that I could do that because of my background and the skills and how much I love the topic. And the last thing was that I wanted to work differently. I didn't want to work a regular job. I wanted to have more flexibility. I wanted to be able to also, go to other countries for a few weeks every year and volunteer myself to support business owners in communities where they don't have support. And this would give me the flexibility to do it. So that was ultimately what drove the decision.
Well, that's pretty freaking cool, I would say. So, you kind of touched on this earlier. You mentioned mindset. And I know in my own experience, I wouldn't say that I have experienced it a lot. I probably some because
Mm-hmm.
my background is in financial services.
Yep.
And so it hasn't been as much of a challenge for me,
Mm.
but I won't say that I've avoided it altogether. But I know in terms of pricing, mindset comes into play a lot. So I want you to speak to that as well
Mm-hmm.
as to what other mistakes you see people making in terms of their pricing.
Okay. Okay. So let's first take a look at mindset. And the first thing, and I alluded to this earlier, is nobody really pulls us aside at any point in time and
Mm-hmm.
teaches us, hey, Rachel, 30 years from now, when you start your own business, here's how you're going to set your prices.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach it and they don't even teach it in business school. They teach you about different strategies, but they don't tell you
Yeah.
actually or show you how to find the right prices. So, of
Mm-hmm.
course, when you're trying to do something that most people have no idea or experience with how to do, that is like, first of all, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And second of all, therefore, it feels
Mm-hmm.
incredibly uncomfortable. And then
Right.
you couple that with it being attached in some ways to your worth because if somebody says that's not a good price and it's your business, then you may go down the rabbit hole and feel
Mm-hmm.
that that's a personal affront on you, even though you may tell yourself it's not, but it may feel that way. And so
Yeah.
it's got very strongly tied to worthiness. And
Ooh. Mm.
yeah, it is. For
Mm-hmm.
many people. I won't say for everyone, but I would
Yeah.
say for many people that is a very strong connection there. And
Mm-hmm.
so of course then it's just riddled with all kinds of money, success, and worthiness, which are probably the three things that when you get into the area of core beliefs that hold us back, those are probably the trifecta, the big three
Mm. Oh,
in a
I love a good
sense.
trifecta.
Don't we all?
Mm-hmm.
But it comes into play in different ways. So a lot of times I'll hear, "Oh, I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good at pricing,"
Mm. Yep. I've
or
heard that
"Nobody
too.
would ever pay me that."
Yep. Oh boy. That
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Or another one is, "Oh, nobody can charge that much in my field."
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And the
Those are big.
reality is, it's not, none of these things are true. We tend,
Mm-hmm.
and when it comes to worthiness, because I think worthiness is oftentimes the most crippling of the three,
Mm-hmm.
I ask people to follow this line of thought. So first of all, when you're born into this world, do you believe that a child is born into this world as worthy just because they were brought into this world? Most people would agree that's true.
Mm. That's a really good question too.
Yeah, it is. Now we're getting all
Okay.
philosophical, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're, let's say, okay, I'm 52, let's say you're 52 and you feel unworthy. The question is, if you came into this world worthy and you don't feel worthy now, at what point in time did that change? When you were 6
Mm.
months, 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
10 years, 25 years?
Right.
The answer
Oh,
is it
that is
didn't.
good. This is good. Okay.
Yeah. It
Okay.
didn't change, did it? You were
Mm.
born into this world, you have been and you always will be worthy.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the line, we learn and develop things, usually before 6 years old, but it can happen later in life as well. Things
Mm.
happen to us and we develop these core beliefs that make us question that worthiness.
That, yeah, that is super interesting. And okay, and let me just back up. Did you say you're 52?
Yes.
Okay, well, you don't look 52.
Thank you.
Just saying, and not fit 52 because I'm not far from you. So not that 52 is like anything, but you just don't look 52.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
so this is really interesting, the
Mm-hmm.
connection between worthiness and the mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that question about, what did you feel worthy as a child or in born, actually, I think that's such a key question
Yeah.
and something that most people don't really think about,
No.
unless they are prompted with that question. But wow, there's a lot to think about there. So
There is.
how do you go about helping people? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and other those great questions. I mean, because of
Right.
course, I would think that gets the wheels turning.
Mm-hmm.
How do you really help them to overcome, and those who do struggle with that? Because
Mm-hmm.
we allow for, there are exceptions. There are
Right.
some people where this may never be an issue, but it is for
Mm-hmm.
a lot. So how do you really help them overcome that thinking, and
Mm-hmm.
and really start to connect what they offer to
Yeah.
worthiness?
Yeah. So trying to make sure I start in the right place. So let me go back one step, because you
Mhm.
asked sort of like, what are some of the other challenges people have in this
Okay.
area? And
Okay.
it's connected. So one of them is that they don't really understand what pricing is.
Mm, okay.
Yeah. In my experience, people have a very narrow definition of pricing. Pricing
I
for
would
them
agree.
is, let me find the price. It's
Hmm.
set the right price. But pricing for me is to set the prices, to get the prices. You have to communicate them, communicate around them, communicate with them,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And you have to be able to manage them over time, because they will need to
Mm.
change over time.
Hmm.
So what I do with with my clients is I help them, one, to understand what pricing really is, because that will help them understand what they need to do.
Mm.
I help them also, up to a certain point, address some of those core belief challenges. And one of the
Okay.
best ways I can help with that is to help people understand the value their offer delivers.
That's good. Okay.
And this is really important, because here's what I see. Most service-based businesses, when they set their prices, they'll go, I do this really cool thing. Other
Hmm.
people are charging that much for it. I'm new in the market,
Yep.
so I'll charge a little bit less. That's their
Yeah.
price setting thought process.
Yeah, that
But
pretty much sums it up for
exactly.
a lot of
But
people.
here's the thing. Pricing is rooted in a deep understanding of the customer. Where's the customer in
Mm.
that equation?
Hmm.
Completely ignored,
Hmm.
quite
Mm.
frankly. Right?
Hmm.
Where's the value of what you bring?
Yeah.
Also ignored. And you're comparing to other people, but are they bringing the same value? Are they targeting the
Right.
same customers?
Yep.
Are the offers really comparable in the customer's eyes? There's a whole slew of things there that are missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, not to pick on them, let's shift over to your product based businesses. They go, oh,
Hmm.
I make this really cool thing. This is how much it costs me to make it. Let me add a margin and sell it at that price.
Mm. Hmm.
But again, where's the customer in that equation?
Yeah.
Where's the value? So the thing
Interesting.
is, yeah, when you understand the value of what your offer brings someone, then you put your price into context. If the value of what you bring helps them save $5,000 a year, and
Yeah.
you're selling it for 100, you will probably start to think, wow, I'm selling that for not very much.
Mm.
Right? It just
Yeah.
changes the whole context of what you can charge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Boy, this is good. This is good. So I I I want to ask you about this,
Yes.
because this seems to be a really, well, probably more than just seems. I think it is a
Mm-hmm.
really hot topic, and especially in the online
Mm-hmm.
space, there's this whole high ticket, low ticket thing,
Mm-hmm.
and there
Mm-hmm.
seems to be a lot more emphasis lately on high ticket, and I just wonder, how do you feel about that, and also in terms of a pricing strategy, because you
Mm-hmm.
talk about the importance of having a pricing strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
can you talk about that, kind of
Right.
related to or
Mm-hmm.
surrounding this whole high ticket, low ticket, mid ticket
Right.
type of
Right.
approach?
Right. So this is my take on it. You need to do what's fit for your business, i.e., what's fit for your customers as well. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how what you offer is consumed by the people that you offer it to, that will in part determine some of your offer. Now, what I've heard
Yeah.
recently is that a shift that's kind of happening, and I haven't looked into it myself. This is just, I've heard this on a couple of webinars here and there. The shift that we're seeing right now is that people are kind of abandoning their low ticket offers and
Mm-hmm.
shifting from mid and then upselling to high immediately.
Yeah.
And they're doing that for different reasons. With COVID, with the financial situation across the globe right now,
Mm-hmm.
you have fewer people with the means to buy what they were buying before, which means you automatically
Right.
have a shrink in the number of potential customers that are out there. You have more businesses starting than ever before. So in a sense, you
Yeah.
have more competition, fewer people. And so the reality is that you'll probably end up with fewer customers.
Yeah. That makes
Which means
sense.
if you're automatically going to have fewer customers in order to hit the same price level or
Mm-hmm.
profit revenue levels you had before, you're probably going to have higher prices.
Right.
One way to have higher prices is to offer higher level packages,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
True.
instead of taking your current package and increasing it by 10%, which is a common thing people will do,
Mm-hmm.
they don't offer the small one and they just offer the mid-sized one. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the strategy why they're doing it, but to me, that is one strategy that you can use. Because here's the thing, most people spend more time, energy, and resources, money as well, trying to figure out how to decrease their prices than they do trying to figure out how to hold or increase them.
Mm.
Think about
I
it.
I think that's true.
If I asked you to make a list of all the ways you could think of to lower your prices, you could probably come up
Mm-hmm.
with a pretty good size list. And if I
Mm-hmm.
asked you to make a list of all the ways you could increase prices, most people are stumped after about two or three.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's super interesting too, because I see that a lot. I mean, in terms of it being a brand and marketing strategist, and I also work with small businesses,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. Yeah, there's always, first of all, there's a constant kind of struggle going on in terms of pricing,
Mhm.
just in general. And then, how can I lower the price? And if I don't see a way to lower the price, am I able to increase the price? But often there is fear, and again, there's mindset issues
Mhm.
going on with that. So yeah, that's an interesting dynamic.
Mhm.
I tend to think too, there is often a disconnect in pricing between your price and your brand.
I
Being
knew you were going to say that.
a brand person, of
Yes,
course, it
absolutely.
you see it all the time, and it's like you're right. There's definitely a shift more to high ticket. I mean,
Mhm.
to some degree mid, but for a lot of people, service providers especially,
Right.
they're just going to high ticket, and I think it's some pressure even for some, because it's out there so much. There are certain coaches and gurus or what have you that are really really preaching high ticket, but it's like you can't do high ticket if your offer and or your brand is not high ticket.
Mhm.
Like, they have to be
Right.
congruent.
And and also if your audience isn't looking for it.
Yes, there's that too. And then the flip side, I
Mhm.
see this as well. People with lower prices and frankly undercharging, but
Mhm.
their target audience, they're going after a higher caliber, high value, high touch kind of audience,
Right.
but they're discounting. it's almost
Yeah.
like a Walmart going after a Saks Fifth Avenue customer. So then the Saks Fifth Avenue customer
Yeah.
doesn't trust these prices because it's
Right.
like, what's going on? This is,
Right.
I mean,
Well, I
do
talk
you
about the
see
5
that?
steps to pricing success. And
Okay.
one of those steps is business alignment. So
Okay.
your pricing, you're absolutely right. It has to be aligned with your brand. It has to be aligned with who you're targeting. It has to be
Mhm.
aligned with your business goals. There's a whole mess of things that it needs to be aligned with. And sorry, this is in my way. I can't see anymore. Um, Alignment is absolutely important because here's the
Right.
thing, and this is my favorite example, and also one of those things that just gets under my skin. I can't stand it when I see service providers like coaches and yoga studios and things like this offering Black Friday sales. It makes me want to pull my hair
Oh,
out,
and there's a lot of that.
right?
I'm guilty of that too.
And here's the thing. So most people, what they know about pricing is what they know from being a consumer, which is the retail industry.
Mm.
And if you take retail industry pricing practices and try to apply them to your small business, it
Mhm.
usually spells some sort of disaster. And if I'm being nice about it, then I say you're less profitable than you have the potential to be.
Mm.
Because chances are you're
Okay.
not picking up enough volume at that lower price for it ever to make sense.
Right. Now let me stop you a moment, Janine, and let me ask
Mm-hmm.
you this, because again, we were talking about strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
using that example with the whole Black Friday thing, because I,
Mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying. And this is something I've talked to my own clients about because they have, I mean, discounted to the 10th degree.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Black Friday, and I mean, really almost any other Friday is not necessarily the time to do that. But what about if there is a solid, if you have a solid strategy around, say, a Black Friday
Mm-hmm.
sale and realizing that that is not, and as you're pretty much saying, should not look like the same type of sale that retail has, your
Right.
favorite store or Amazon or something. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is there a way to do
Yeah.
that successfully?
So yes, I think that what it's not. I'm not saying it's never appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that for most small businesses, you're not going to make more money doing it
Okay.
than if you
Mm,
didn't do it at all. And
okay.
and here's why. So let's take a product business example because we talked about services earlier. So if I have a product that has 40% gross profit, for those who don't know what
Mm-hmm.
gross profit is, if your
Mm,
price is 100 and your costs are 60, your gross profit is 40.
mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't assume that everybody
Good
knows what that means.
example.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
good
So,
example.
gross profit is 40%, and you decide to offer a 10% discount for Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
In order to break even on profit, you would have to sell 33% more volume.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Your mind should be going, because that is a
Wow.
huge amount of additional volume.
Now I want you to say that again and
Okay.
talk about that a little, because you said 33% more volume.
Volume.
Break
Yes.
that down a bit
So
more.
volume is you'd have to sell to, if it's, well, for product, you'd have to sell 33% more units. So if you had
Mm-hmm.
planned to sell 100
Mm-hmm.
at a price of 100, and you decide
Mm-hmm.
to do a Black Friday sale and you're going to have a price of 90, 10% less,
Mm-hmm.
you would need to sell 100. It's only at 133 units
Mm-hmm.
sold that you
Right.
break even on gross profit.
Right. And that's just with a 10%
That's just with a
discount.
10% discount. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. So let me wrap that up. Let's say you decide instead of a Black Friday discount, you're going to just increase your prices and sell it for 110. Here's the
Mm,
question. How many customers could you potentially lose, or how many sales could you potentially lose and still
mm-hmm.
break even?
Mm. I don't know. I want you to tell
25%.
me.
25%
Ah,
at that
okay.
gross profit of 40%. So this
Right,
is the
right.
thing, that when you choose to, there are only four things that impact profitability. You know this probably better than I do. Only four things: price, volume, fixed costs, and variable costs. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that's used to calculate profit for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And pricing of those four is the most impactful. So a small change in price usually creates a larger change in, well, always creates a larger change in profitability.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the sword of pricing, we say it cuts in both directions. So if you increase your
Mm-hmm.
price, let's say you increase your price by 1%, and that brings you a 10% profit increase. If your prices fall by 1%, then your profits also fall by 10%. So it
Mm-hmm.
cuts both ways. So it's
Yeah.
important for you to understand. And that's, in my opinion, that's where a lot of people make the mistake. They assume that they'll get so much more volume that it makes
Yep.
sense. In
Yeah.
all the years I've been doing this, I've seen it work once.
Wow.
So the question is, if you're going to offer a special price, where is the extra, how much extra volume do you need?
Mm-hmm.
And where is it going to come from? And
Yeah.
last of all, is that sustainable?
Now that really is the question. Is it sustainable?
Right. So
Okay.
now let me come back to this, because your question was also asking, okay, how can we do this in a better way?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a few rules when it comes to discounting. First of all, you always have to know the numbers, which we just spoke about. You have to
Mm-hmm.
understand what's the impact and know where you break even or not.
Yeah.
Second of all, in my opinion, discounts for, especially for small businesses, should always come with a trade-off. It
Mm.
happening to be the last Friday in November is not a trade-off. It's just an excuse to lower your prices, and it's not a very good one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the retail industry, they're trying to move inventory. Yeah, they're trying to
That's
get all,
true.
that
That's
is the
true.
intention behind it, is moving inventory. Most of your small businesses, there are exceptions, are not all about moving inventory. Some are. Yeah, you have your small boutique shops and things like that.
Right.
But most small businesses aren't trying to do high levels of volume and shift inventory like a retail chain is. Yeah? So
Right.
it's different.
Right.
So what is the business reason behind doing it? For a
Mm-hmm.
retail chain like a Walmart or whoever it is, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's moving inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So they're willing to take the loss on it in a sense. Yeah, or
And
that they might
typically
be
they
selling
can
other
take the
things.
loss. I mean, the loss is not going to break them.
Right, right. Whereas in a small business, it's, you know, it can be a little bit different. So
Yeah.
what's the business reason? So was it last year? Yeah, last year I had a client who I was working with. We were wrapping up in January, and she goes, "Oh, I have one more thing to send you if you can give me some feedback." I said, "All right." She sent it over, and it was like her schedule of promotional discounts throughout the year.
Okay.
Okay, and she offers like a therapy,
Mm.
um, like a
Mm-hmm.
physical therapy kind of thing. And I
Okay.
took one look at it. I was like, okay, what's the reason for this? And I sent her that question back. I said, precisely, why are you offering these?
Mm-hmm.
Well, other people do, so I thought I needed to. That's not a
Mm-hmm.
good reason. That's not a good business reason. So it
Mm-hmm.
needs to have a solid business reason behind it. And if you do it, it should come with a trade-off. So if you, let's say you decide to offer something for Black Friday, well, then ask for something in return. Ask them to promote this. Ask them, you know, tell them in order to get this, they have to do that. If it's not
Mm.
related to Black Friday, there are lots of ways that, you know, you can adjust the offer. You
Yeah.
can ask, you know, ask for something in return.
Now, what do you say, Janine? Let me
Mhm.
play devil's advocate.
Oh, go
What do you
ahead.
say though to someone who a business owner in response to that, they may say, Well, my competitors, though, are slashing their prices, and even among service-based businesses, they're slashing their prices, and they're not asking for anything in return.
Mm-hmm. For me, well, first of all, what I would say is a price war is a race to the bottom, and a race to the bottom is going out of business.
Mm.
I mean,
Okay.
you look at all price wars that are going on, rarely does anybody benefit. And in the long term, it's also not good for the customer. Why? I mean, if you bought this, looking for my phone, if you buy this device and then tomorrow the company that you bought it from goes out of business, you can't get service for it anymore. What if it doesn't work? What do you do then? So when you think about it, yeah, you can say, oh, it's good for the customer because they get lower prices. Well, not forever.
Right.
Because it's not sustainable. Right. So that's why a race to the bottom, or a price war, is just simply a race to the bottom. And who wants to race to there? And this is also where this alignment thing comes in. If you say, does Louis Vuitton offer Black Friday sales?
I don't think so.
No.
or Lexus, or now.
I mean, we've seen some brands change.
Yeah,
like Swarovski.
I remember they do tend to offer and I suppose Black Friday too, but I was thinking definitely like at Christmas, you do see, some sales or what have you from some of the luxury car dealers or car makers like, Lexus or BMW or something. But I would say it's still different. I mean, obviously the price points are different.
Yes.
Versus some other small businesses. Certainly.
It's alignment again. So if your customers are looking for the best deal, then you need to do something different in your business than someone who's selling a similar offer, but whose target customer is looking for good value for money. Or similar offer with a target customer who's looking for the best offer out there that's premium, right? So it always goes back to, who am I targeting? If you're targeting a very price sensitive customer, then some of these tactics may be helpful. But if you say, no, my service is premium, and then you go and offer a Black Friday sale, well, it stinks to the heavens above. In terms of if you're the customer and you're like premium Black Friday, they sense that something is off.
Yeah, I think that is really key, and it kind of speaks to something I've shared with clients before too. And from a brand perspective, if you are crafting or curating, more of a premium brand, then it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Your customer, your client is not necessarily going to trust this really low price. So it's like there's a disconnect there. Right. And that's a whole other conversation. So wow, this has really been good. We may have to get you back. So Janene, what does it look like? What does a business look like? Revenue, profit, because profit is a good thing. What does that look like when pricing is done right?
So I would say, if I go back to, I'm going to forget his name, Warren Buffett. So there's a quote from Warren Buffett out there. I'm going to paraphrase so then I don't have to remember it precisely. But he says something along the lines, if you have to have a prayer session before raising prices, you've got a bad business model. And there's truth in that. There's truth in that. I mean, I've had clients who said, oh, there's no way we could raise the price even, a couple of %. And I'm like, it's not true. There are very few cases where prices are that sensitive. So if you're really stressed and worrying about your pricing, then it is having a negative impact on your business for sure. And you are not as profitable as you could be. Does it mean that you have to extract every single ounce of profit out of, what's out there and do it at the expense of everything? No, definitely not. But
Right.
I would like for more small businesses to feel a little bit at ease when it comes to their profitability, and pricing as the most impactful lever is going to be the fastest way for you to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remembered something else,
Mm-hmm.
kind of going back to what we were talking about just previously,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the disconnect between, brand and price, or value and price. There are people, I really believe this, and you can share how you believe
Mm-hmm.
or how you feel about it as well. But I
Mm-hmm.
really believe there are people, there are consumers who have more money than time. And
Mm-hmm.
I share with some of my clients, if you are going after a more affluent customer
Mm-hmm.
who tends to fit that description, they are
Right.
not price sensitive. You were just talking about people who are price sensitive before. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have someone who really just wants to get results, however, whatever that looks like, whether that's delivered through a service, through a product, they want results. They want
Mm-hmm.
results sooner rather than later. They have the money to pay for it. They're not concerned about discounts, and they're not the type
Mm-hmm.
to nickel and dime you. And but unfortunately, sometimes the business owner or the marketer doesn't realize that.
Yeah.
And that kind
Yeah.
of goes back to knowing your customer.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And here's another example that's a similar along the same lines. A couple of years ago, I had a client doing $100,000 and more offers, so doing consulting projects. And she sent me some offers to review as part of the work we were doing. And I asked her, I said, how come all of these offers have a 10% discount? And she perked up. She goes, oh, that's my new customer discount. And
What, at
I went,
$100,000?
oh.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness.
okay, so explain to me what, I didn't get all crazy eyed and whatever, just internally.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
said, okay, explain to me what that is. She goes, well, just I put that on the first offer I send them, and every new client gets that. And I said, yeah, but why? And she goes, well, because they're new clients and it's nice that they're doing that for me. And I said, okay, and
Okay.
and to not drag out a long story any longer, it was basically she felt uncomfortable with how much she was charging.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
so she was trying to soften the blow before they even saw what the offer was. That's really what it came down to. Now, when we did the value exercise together, so
Mm-hmm.
her clients were typically pharma companies and biotech companies.
Oh my
And
goodness.
if they didn't do what she was helping them do, they get shut down. So if you take a $5 billion biotech company and say, well, the risk if you don't do this the way you're supposed to is your
Mm-hmm.
business is shut down $5 billion
Mm-hmm.
a year, then making an offer for $100,000, it's a
Oh
no
my.
brainer, right?
This
So that
is
was,
so, yeah,
yeah,
this
yeah.
there's so much going through my head, and I know we're gonna wrap up, but I
Yes.
have to address this because
Mm-hmm.
it's not lost on me that you said the examples that you're using, and that one in particular
Mm-hmm.
is a lady. And I don't know about you, Janine. I work
Mm-hmm.
mostly with women, not
Mm-hmm.
exclusively, but most of my clients are women, and I
Mm-hmm.
see this more among women: pricing issues, discounting, undercharging, not really knowing or being comfortable with your
Mm-hmm.
value.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your experience too? Do you tend to see this more among women, or I mean, do you kind of see the same thing across the board?
I see both. I will say this, however. So men typically grow up with a different relationship to money than women do.
Yeah.
And often they there are more men who have had a job where they were exposed to the financial side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to choose my words really carefully because, of course, that generalization is kind of getting smaller and smaller as time goes
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
But a lot of more men, have taken care of the money at
Yeah.
home or have had a job where they looked at figures and
I
understood
mean,
it.
finance, I know that financial services,
Yeah.
banking, investment, yeah, it's still
Mm-hmm.
male dominated.
So I think it can be excuse me. There is a case to be made that women have grown up in a different, relating to money and the money side of business differently from most men, or the other way
Mm-hmm.
around. Most men have had a different experience than the majority of women.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think that is, what do I want to say? We can't hide behind that. We
Yeah.
have to, if we want to run a business, a successful business. So my goal is sustainably profitable businesses, right? I
Right.
want to teach people how to be sustainably profitable. Pricing is one important piece of that many businesses ignore until it's so painful they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
I'd like for them not to get to that point in the first place. If you are going to start or you have a business and it's not profitable, it's more of a hobby than it is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I try to impress upon people is that you may think you're not here. I get this from people all the time. Oh, I don't really care about the money. If you have a business, you
Yeah.
have to
Oh my
care
goodness.
about the money.
Yeah.
So, ladies, gentlemen, whoever you are, it's time to pull on those big boy and girl panties
Mm-hmm.
and understand the figures in your business. It's not that difficult in the end. And there's simple tools. I have a great toolkit on my website that people can access. They can do the calculation we were talking about earlier when you discount and how much volume you need. There's a couple other tools on there.
Mm-hmm.
There are tools out there to help you to understand that and to make it simple. But you have to take the
Absolutely.
first step and make it a priority for your business.
I cannot agree more. Wow. This has been wonderful. I really hope you guys got all the gems shared here. And as I often say, if you need to go back and re-listen, go right ahead. This
Yeah.
is definitely one that you want to check out the replay and maybe even listen to this multiple times because there's so much here to kind of digest and to implement. I mean, there are
Mm-hmm.
some things that you can implement here that will make such a big difference to your bottom line. So, Janene, apparently I was really, really excited to jump in because I did not share your bio. And so I don't
That's
usually
okay.
do that at the end. It's usually at the beginning. But let's let's
Okay.
share your bio just to reiterate who you are and what you do. So,
Sure.
Janene is a highly trusted value and profit expert. That's Janene Liston. Working with small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs across industries and the globe. You guys heard she's in Switzerland and has been in Switzerland now for some time. She's a certified pricing professional. You heard her say that is a real thing. So she is certified in this. And her mission is to empower small businesses to sustainably grow their revenue and profit by showing them how to use the pricing strategies and tactics that help them confidently create, communicate, and charge for the value they deliver. Watch out. Her passion for pricing is contagious. I think it may be you, actually. And also, a really key stat, and I find an interesting stat that Janene shares in her bio is that 60%, that's 60% of small businesses are either barely breaking even or operating at a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Just marinate on that. Just
Yeah.
think about that as we wrap up.
Yeah.
60%. So you don't want to be in that 60%, even though that's that's the majority or more or less. But that can be changed. If that's your
Right.
situation right now, you can absolutely change that. So, Janene, this has been wonderful. Share with my audience how people can keep in touch with you.
Right.
You touched on some of the resources you have. So by
Mhm.
all means, let us know about all that good
Right.
stuff.
Right. You can find me everywhere at the Pricing Lady. That's probably the easiest thing. So whichever social media platform or the website. And then also in March, I'll be running my pricing know-how for startups webinar. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Okay, very cool. And the website is
Pricinglady.com. Yes.
thepricinglady.com. Okay, wonderful. All right, well, you guys, you have gotten a ton of value here. I'm sure of that. So by all means, if you are not already subscribed, I encourage you to subscribe and review. Reviews matter. Reviews help. And so certainly share what you enjoy, the value that you got out of this episode and any other episodes. And I encourage you to go back and check out some of the other episodes if you are new here. So until next time, this has been Rachel Wilson Thibodeau along with Janene, the Pricing Lady. Until next time, take care and take some action. Okay. All right. So I will edit. I mean,
Okay, we're still live.
I know.
Okay.
I'll edit that part or
Okay.
this part. I just wanted to quickly touch base with you. That was great.
Okay, good.
I appreciate that, and I really am thinking I'll have you back maybe
Okay.
later in the year or so, because that was really great information. Some of what you said
Excellent.
was good reminders for me as
Mm.
well. And I mean, yeah, some of the examples and the things you said, I mean, I haven't heard before, and I've
Mhm.
heard a lot about pricing. I've done, pricing training and what have you.
Right.
But yeah, that was wonderful.
Well, I really try one of the things I strive to do is to make it understandable for people who don't have a background in it.
Right.
Because there are plenty of pricing consultants out there, but they tend to talk way up here, and not everybody understands that. So, plus, it should be fun.
I agree. I agree. All
All
right.
right.
Well,
Oh,
we will be in touch. Again,
okay.
this episode will be released mid to late February.
Mhm.
We'll also get you some graphics
Okay.
for you to share with your audience or what have you. And oh, and if you actually, I think you've already done this now that I think about it. Did you write a review?
I believe I did. Usually I do when I
I
will check.
think I saw
Usually
it.
I do when I pitch. I usually write it before I send the pitch.
Okay. Okay. Well,
So I
wonderful.
sent the video pitch. Rachel.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'm
So
thinking I
I'll double
saw
check.
it,
Mhm.
but yes, we usually ask guests
Yeah,
to write a review. So
I will
thank
double
you
check on
very
that.
much.
No
Okay,
problem. It was a real pleasure to meet you.
well, you too. So I'm curious, how's the what is it cold in Switzerland? I
It
mean,
is
I'm
this
thinking it
week.
is.
This week it's been quite. We had unseasonably warm second half of December and the first week of January, and then now it's